Coogs House. The Houston Cougars lose more to the transfer portal. Weren't we done with that?
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That one was cool. Welcome to Locked On Coogs, the daily podcast on your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach, Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. If you want to join in the conversation and don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below. What's your favorite salad dressing? The only wrong answer here is none, right? We can agree on that. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. More on that later, but we got a bunch of stuff to get into and looking at the transfer portal. We're even going to look at some past Cougs that are still in the transfer portal or in the transfer portal again, continuing to look for a new home, kind of look at how that's going for them. I want to look some at the big folks in the trenches that have entered the transfer portal from the football program. But first and foremost, we've got to talk about offensive signal caller, backup quarterback Lucas Coley entering the transfer portal. Now, Coley entered the transfer portal officially on Tuesday about midday. He joined Sam Brown as skill position guys from Houston that are in it in this window. We're in the spring transfer portal window between, for most programs, the end of spring ball and the start of summer workouts. A few programs are actually doing their spring practices this week and having the spring game this upcoming week. I think, like I saw, Oklahoma is doing that and stuff like that, right? It's just about when you started, you get so many practices, yada, yada, yada. Coley was a popular name for Houston Cougar fans, I think in part because the backup quarterback is always a popular name, if I'm being completely honest. And for what it's worth, Coley's high school highlight tape out of San Antonio, phenomenal. Incredible high school quarterback, really special kind of athlete. Listed at 6'2", 205. I believe that. He's not a giant by any stretch, but I think that's an accurate reading on him. And he initially went to Arkansas. He went to Arkansas out of high school for the 2021 season. Didn't see the field, got redshirted, transferred to Houston for a chance to play after Clayton Tune was done. Played behind Clayton Tune as a redshirt freshman. And then this past season, going into the season, we heard a lot from Dana Holgorsen going into the 2023 campaign that there was a competition between Lucas Coley and Donovan Smith. It became fairly apparent once you started hearing players talk about it that the competition might have been more for a leadership role in the locker room because while Donovan Smith has been a very strong leader and had a great spring by all accounts on that as well, Coley's a guy that seems like everyone likes. Every player, person associated with the program, you ask about Lucas Coley, they have glowing things to say about him, the person. On the football field, we have yet to really see a whole heck of a lot. In his 3 seasons in college, he has played in 4 games. He has thrown 3 passes, completed all 3 for a total of 8 yards. Now, I understand that statistics can be deceiving, and frankly, that redshirt year shouldn't count for anything at Arkansas. And then playing behind Clayton Tune, Tune was healthy and Tune was a pro, and so I get how that could shape this some. But on the whole, honestly, I think it kind of tells you a lot about where he's going to be comfortable playing. Again, Lucas appears to be a great leader and great kid. I think he's going to land on his feet somewhere, but it doesn't seem like playing Power 5 football may be the best athletic fit right now. Developmental things happen. People transfer around all the time, obviously, right? I think people were concerned, though, because the backup quarterback is the most popular guy on the roster a lot of the time, right? Anything's going south, it's the coach or the quarterback. That's just the way we blame things. People don't typically want to blame other people. Those are just the faces of the cat to the motif, right? And I wonder if he just, his popularity was the benefactor of a poor football season for the team last year, point blank, right? it was apparent, frankly, that when Houston went to their backup quarterback last season, that while the competition we'd heard about was Coley and Smith, the actual backup, once Smith was and a couple of blowouts here or there, whatever, when Houston went to their back, was Uela. And we didn't even see Coley on the field a whole heck of a lot last year, to let alone out there throwing a bunch of passes, right? And then the spring happened under Willie Fritz. Now, Willie Fritz came in, and I think it's worth pointing out, like, they did go out and get a transfer in Zion Chris from Louisiana. I think it's safe to assume that he'll be the number 2 quarterback this fall. Smith starting, Chris second. And then you start looking at, like, okay, who's third string, who's fourth string, who's fifth string. I think they had 7 quarterbacks lined up to take snaps in the spring game, or 6, not counting Donovan, right? And frankly, the second guy, one with the first team, that's Zion Chris. We didn't even get the second team snaps, meaning he'd be the third string quarterback. That went to Caleb McMichael, and for what it's worth, I thought he looked really good. And then you had and then you had Lucas, and then you had Jake Zock and Indy Weejway. And I think that, Jake and Indy are great kids. If they transfer out, I kind of think it's silly. They're part of the program. And frankly, like, they should continue to develop and work under great coaches like they've got here in Houston. What I do think is interesting, though, is the way Coley fits into this whole thing. Again, great kid, great leader, going to be in the great in the locker room wherever he ends up. But out of the 4 quarterbacks that played for Houston, I don't think he necessarily had an argument in the spring football game over any of them. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought McMichael was in charge of the first touchdown drive, but McMichael looked like he could throw and pass, better than we and Lucas. We had a better understanding, I think, of making reads. He found guys in RPOs in a different way. And obviously Zion has the factor that kind of not being able to tackle the quarterback takes away, and that's he's so elusive in the open field. When he took off, they just call him dead pretty quickly, so no one tackled him. But I kind of felt like Lucas left the spring game in more like a 5th position. And I understand, frankly, him transferring. He's, again, great kid, great leader, going to be great for some other program. And he needs to go somewhere, whatever division level. I think it's still Division I. I don't mean to say it's not. But whatever program he can get on the field for, he needs to go do that. He's kind of at the point of development where he's going to develop the most by playing live snaps. It's been really effectively 3 years since he's had truly live snaps as a senior in high school. He got his degree. He's graduated. He's a grad transfer. He put in his transfer statement officially. So congrats to him on that. But he's got to go find somewhere where he can play, and it's just not going to be here. Playing develops guys. He could develop into something and make me eat my words. And I, frankly, hats off to him if he does. I just don't know where that will be. I could take my guesses, take my thoughts. I saw some people throwing out UTSA because he's from the area, Texas State because he's from Central South Texas. I get all that. We'll see. We'll see. Now, obviously, he joined Sam Brown from the year before as Houston Cougars skill position guys in the transfer portal. I was trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody as I have my list here. They are skill position guys officially in the transfer portal. That means that they are officially out there able to hear scholarship offers and recruitments from other places, both of which I think are kind of in there for different options. We talked yesterday's episode about how Sam Brown is in this because, frankly, well, I'm sure people are alluding to NIL money. The offense is not going to be a very receiver-heavy offense like Holgerson might have pitched people on. There's going to be a lot more run game, a lot more ground and pound kind of stuff. And frankly, there's a lot of receivers on this roster that are very talented, right? Sam's going to go find somewhere he can be featured more. Totally get it. He wants more than 6 or 7 balls thrown his way in a game. Totally get it. Go be great, kid. Hope you don't have to play against us, but go be great, kid, right? Lucas Coley can't get on the field, so it's a very different problem with the program. He's got to go find somewhere he can get on the field. I get that too. Both guys have understandable problems. Both guys are having problems that they might not have had under the previous administration, right? Coley was a guy that Holgerson liked and was keeping around and keeping higher in the depth chart than maybe he was ready for, right? Sam Brown was a receiver in an offense that featured a lot of talented receivers and got the ball out in the air a lot, right? Both of those situations changed. They both stuck around to see how those changes happened in spring ball, and now they're both deciding to go find a situation that better suits their needs. I'm not the podcast that has a problem with that. I think both the program and these two guys are having going to be better for it and going to be moving forward. The big guys, though, which we're going to talk about in the second segment, I kind of feel a little bit differently about. We're going to talk about that in a second, but first, I got to be honest, I've been distracted a lot lately because I'm competitive and I'm playing this game called Monopoly Go. Now, I have to say, I'm Houston-born teacher and coach. I like winning. If we play each other, I'm coming for throats. I'm stepping and not letting go. Like, I am trying to win the game at all costs. Now, I have a competitive problem. My wife would say, I would say my mom, she probably said it once a kid as well, but my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go, and I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly. We plan not one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you money. And the best part is you get to mess with your friends along the way. I can charge rent to iconic properties and kind of jack it up and mess with it. I can also rob their vaults of riches all for myself. Leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. More often than not, that is me. Competitive me. Now, it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends as well if you're more of a team person. And people all around the world are in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends at Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play Store. All right. Big guys hit the portal as well on Tuesday. And I think these hurt a little bit more. Now, I didn't have on my, informal depth chart I've been keeping any of these guys as starters necessarily. I do think, though, we've seen, the trench warfare that happens, for lack of a better phrase, in Big 12, and losing depth at a couple key positions could be painful. Like Carson Jones, right? Carson Jones is the backup center in the spring game, kid out of Lubbock, Texas. Big, strong kid. And frankly, like, I think he's 6'4", 6'5", listed at 315. And I have to say, like, yes, Demetrius Pancake Hunter Jr. Is a very good center and is going to be very good. But an interior offensive lineman backup that you can continue to develop under Gavi and has some familiarity with the system, like, that is valuable. And it's unfortunate to watch the guy leave, right? Tevin Shaw is in a similar boat in a lot of ways. Interior offensive lineman, 6'4", a little bit heavier, listed more like 330. Local kid, Manville High School, right? I don't think I had him starting in either guard spot. I actually felt pretty comfortable with the guards in the spring game. My discomfort with the tackles, but that's neither here nor there. But Tevin Shaw is leaving. That's more depth at those spots. Or maybe if you wanted to move one of those guards to tackle, you're losing guys in there. I had him as a second-team guy myself, and losing second-team offensive linemen is rough because that position is so violent that you never know who you're going to need, unfortunately, who you're going to have to lean on when Pancake breaks a shoelace, right? I always say break a shoelace because that's a very fixable problem, but you got to have a guy in the next snap, right? And so losing those two guys hurt some. We also lost long snapper Nakia Jimenez. Again, like, Scott Street specialists, special teams are important. I don't think he was a guy that did the majority of the snapping in the spring game. Special teams were a little bit funky in that one, though, so I might have missed something. They weren't always on the screen televised. But, losing depth at these important positions hurts, especially if you're going to try and be a ground and pound run team. That's going to lead to needing to use more linemen over the course of the season, right? It's going to be imperative that you have guys that can back up your interior offensive line. we're going to need to work on starting tackles too, I think, or at least develop the ones we got. But that's a separate issue. You're losing your depth here. And as much as I am excited about the direction of this program and I trust the guys in charge, I do feel some kind of way about that. I think that they've got to gain some depth here. Now, I did spend a little bit of time on this, unlike quarterback or receiver, looking at backups, because I wonder if the truth is like, in losing Sam Brown and Lucas Coley, do they go get more like a backup tight end or somebody instead of a backup receiver or quarterback, right? They've got so many of those. Javante Connor is a kid that just hit the transfer portal, big-time recruit that went to Ole Miss. He's apparently very open to hearing recruit pitches. He's in the transfer portal right now. Like, he's a tight end. Could they go get him to replace one of those guys? Maybe. On the line, though, you got to kind of go one for one. You got to go pull in some linemen. The big name out there right now on the offensive line, this kid named Peyton Kirkland, listed at 6'6", 350. Some places have him as having graduated high school at 6'6", 385. So the fact that he's down to 350 implies, I should say, some good weight loss. He's getting in shape. He's getting better shape, etc. With that said, right? Yes, he's in better shape. He still probably could stand to get in a little bit more better shape, a little bit more betterer shape. Yeah, you got me right. Now, I will say, I don't know where he's going to go. It sounds like he's the kind of kid with a lot of people offering him a lot of different spots. But I do think it's worth pointing out that he appears to have, connections to Texas, even though he's from Orlando, Florida. I think that bodes well for Houston. People are trying to cite him to Houston schools, but I think there are people also on, the interwebs of the recruit people, and I only DM'd two asking about him, that think he might stay in the state of Texas, right? Other offensive lineman, Scott Elliott out of Duke. Scott Elliott is probably the most intelligent guy in the transfer portal. It was a 4-year member, 3-year letter winner at Harvard. That's important because Harvard in the Ivy League did not play a 2020 season. So, he was there for 4 years, played 3 of them, graduated from Harvard. For what it's worth, he was academic honorable mention there in the Ivy League. He went from there as academic honorable mention and third team All Ivy League to Duke. Didn't necessarily like his time at Duke, and I don't mean that to say that like he's got some character flaws or whatever. I think it just fits. He's 6'3", 300. He's a little bit on the smaller side. I know Houston probably needs more tackles than guards, but he also just lost a couple backup interior guys. I wonder if Scott Elliott could be the kind of guy that looks at Houston as a place to play big time football, Power 5 football. Clearly looked for that when he left Harvard for Duke. It didn't quite work out like that. I know I said I DM'd a couple of recruit guys. It sounds like they might be thinking he's leaning more towards the nerd ball, the Cals, the Stanfords, the Northwesterns, and that's fair. I'm not going to say shouldn't do that and continue getting a strong education, but I think Dr. Couture would talk to him a little bit about what we're building here in with Houston, and that stance as well. The big tackle, because I mentioned that Payne Kirkland's the big name. The big tackle that I think people are looking at is a kid named Andrew Chambly from Arkansas. He's from the state of Arkansas. Arkansas went to the University of Arkansas and redshirted his 2022 season and didn't get to play a whole lot last season. Listed at 6'6", 305, long, bendy, athletic. It makes his athleticism makes you kind of wonder what else must be happening, what else did happen up there at Arkansas. I will say, as a kid from Arkansas that stuck there and went to Arkansas, I wonder how far away he's really going to be trying to go, and I think that helps the Texas schools, including Houston. He's the kind of kid that's going to have, a bunch of offers on his sheet, but national outlets are already reporting that the University of Houston's reached out to him. Right? I think that's a good sign. I think that's a very positive sign for things to go, that on the same day that they're having their own guys going to the transfer portal, they're already reaching out. Now, I could go into some negatives that come with that as well, and we might do that some in the final segment as I talk about a number of other notable Cougs I saw in the transfer portal that were Houston Cougars a little bit further back. I'm going to break that down in a second, but first, I want to make sure we talk some about how to manage your money. And this is one thing that I've got, Houston-born teacher and coach, I've gotten better at as I've gotten older, and you can get better at it right now, because it would be so great if you could just see all of your investments and retirement accounts in one place. With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts onto one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Their number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, and analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right. I said I want to talk some in this segment about former Cougs in the transfer portal. It's guys that scan the transfer portal, frankly, doing some research, and then I get a name and I DM one of my guys. Hey, what do you know about this guy? What do you heard about this guy? What are you hearing? Blah, 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 right? I like Ruben. Ruben's a good guy. It was nice to talk to him when he was on the show one time. I thought it was interesting that Louisville was parting ways with a handful of offensive linemen in the transfer portal, 3 of which were former Houston Cougars. Ruben Unajay, who just entered the transfer portal in January. That means he entered the transfer portal, went to Louisville in the spring, and is already back in that portal. Javonte Sylvester, right? Houston Cougar in the 2022 season, I think, was most recently. And Lance Robinson, I think also 2022 season, if I'm not mistaken. All 3 guys are in that transfer portal looking for a new home. Now, admittedly, there might be some strength in numbers there. They think of themselves if they're buddies or whatever, that may be true. It also strikes me as interesting that these former Cougars that were, having trouble here, Ruben started for Houston last season, right? And had faced some criticism, but on the whole, it's hard to play right tackle sometimes. They're in the transfer portal again, right? They're in transfer portal again. On the hoop side, for what it's worth, I think the notable one is Tremont Mark is transferring to UT Austin after having spent a year at Arkansas, right? Arkansas obviously had their big coaching changes and all the way that all spilled out. I don't know if Tremont even spoke to Calipari, but now he's going to UT Austin. I'm not going to sit here and denigrate that program too much. I will say that they had a lot of transfers in and out in the last couple of days in hoops. They lost some of their better players like Dylan Mitchell and replaced them with guys like from Indiana State and Tremont. And not like the Indiana State guy that looks like was the nickname I heard for the big fella in Indiana State was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Cream, Cream. Not him, but other guys that were on that Indiana State team. So, take that as you may. I think it's interesting, though, that you're seeing some of the Cougars that left Houston, some on good terms, some on not good terms, trying to find a new home again. The constant search for a new location, a new place to play in the modern era of college football is a gift and a curse. The gift is that the kids have autonomy, the kids have a say, and it is their education, it's their life, it is their career, and I kind of understand that. The scholarships they get offered are 1-year scholarships. It's it's not like they're signed on for a 4-year max deal or anything like that. But on the other hand, you're having kids that are jumping in the portal whenever they can and continue to look for things. And I do think that yin and yang and that balance is something that you got to kind of take in all at once, because I don't know that either side of that is something we really want. all the way on either side, I should say, is something we really want. I also think it's worth pointing out that, a lot of kids will say that they were told to get in the transfer portal or told that they weren't going to play or whatever. And, I think that's the reality of some of those conversations were happening before this transfer portal thing exploded. The difference was that kids had no option. And so to me, when I hear that, a kid gets transfer portal because he can't play, or kid gets transfer portal, he's not going to play, whatever, I'm almost thankful that the kid has the transfer portal as an option. I think that that's almost a good thing for them. Um, everyone played sports in high school. Everyone has guys they knew in high school that went on to play college sports and da-da-da. And I don't mean to make my friends any better at sports than your friends, but we all knew people that went to college and then didn't get to play a whole lot when they got there, right? And frankly, a buddy of mine that went to Division I route and got to play a little bit as a freshman. Coaches changed. He stayed and ultimately regrets staying. He stayed because the school was going well, but regrets staying because his career kind of got derailed because the new coach played his guys, right? I think that happens more often than not. And I think that it's almost it's hard to swallow because there's so many kids moving. I'm telling you, by the end of April, there will be thousands and thousands of college football players changing programs. It's just going to happen. Okay. They're going to be floods in the next 2 weeks. Floods. Okay. From all different divisions, frankly, all different divisions, trying to move up, trying to move down, trying to play, trying to whatever. Right. I do maintain, though, that it's better to have that option, even if you ultimately get left in the portal and left out. Having the option to at least pursue it, to try, feels better than being stuck at a place where it's not going to work. And I know that's hard to swallow. I know that's hard to eat. I know that's hard to, everyone thinks that they're going to figure it. And kids develop late. Kids develop at different paths. Things are not linear. But I do think that having, lived vicariously through that one experience, which was not my college athletic experience, but I feel like there's something to having the chance to go start fresh, start over with a new program. And I think that's a good thing. And frankly, in the case of everyone we've talked about today that left Houston, I can't think of anything to do but wish them best of luck wherever they go. I hope you don't play against Houston, and if you do, I hope we beat you. But outside of that, go be great. Go be great. And frankly, that's my message to you listening today. As you thank for making us your first listen of the day, and if you go about the rest of your day, go be great. Go be great the rest of the day. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Coogs.